Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in an updated, new map as of September. So if the election was held today, and we're going to be completely forgetting the polls, because in my opinion, the polls, especially from 538, are really showing their bias towards Kamala Harris. And I think they're going to be completely wrong in this election. And I do think my map would be more accurate than 538's. Obviously, I think they're overestimating Kamala Harris's chances, as they did to Joe Biden in 2020 and Hillary Clinton in 2016. So why not again in 2024? I won't be shocked if they do overestimate the Democrats, as they literally always do every single time. So I don't understand why people think something like 538 would be accurate. But before we get started with my map, make sure you guys are subscribed, as we are approaching 4,000. Click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Share this video, press the like button. Don't forget, we do have memberships, so you can find a link to that in the description section if you are interested. Now back to the topic of today's video. I'm going to be filling out all of these swing and competitive battleground states. So let's start off with the, typical likely states. Now moving into the solid blue column for Kamala Harris. I do think Colorado is now considered safe for her. I do think she will be able to get double digits in this state, especially considering that Tim Walz is a part of her ticket as the VP. I do think he would really help her in the state of Colorado. The state's actually getting bluer. Democrats keep gaining in terms of new voters on their side. So I do think she'd win Colorado by around 10 percentage points, which is around, the 2020 margin Biden had won the state by. He actually won it by 13 points. I do think she'll get it by 10 this time around. And I also do think that Iowa is now safe for Donald Trump. I do think he will be able to get double digits, probably around 10 to 12 percentage points in this state. It's pretty much a lost cause for the Democratic Party. And I also do think that Ohio is going to be likely for Donald Trump. Obviously, you have J.D. Vance as the VP. His home state is literally Ohio. So obviously, you have that home state advantage electorally. That will not be competitive at all. And I do think Trump would win Ohio by around 9 percentage points, ultimately at the end of the day. And now the likely states for Kamala Harris, I do think New Mexico is going to be likely for her, as well as Minnesota and a state like New Hampshire. All three of those states, I do think she will win them comfortably. So start off, with New Mexico. I do think Albuquerque, a Democratic stronghold county, obviously that's hard for Trump to overcome the votes. And I don't think New Mexico is going to be close at all. I know some people on the right are speculating that they can make it somewhat competitive, but every single election cycle, Republicans think they can do good in New Mexico. They end up falling short. So I do think she would win New Mexico on election day by probably somewhere in between 8 to 9 percentage points. I think this state's a lost cause for Republicans. Maybe with the Hispanic vote that really can help Donald Trump, but still, I don't think that's going to happen. And then as for Minnesota, obviously, it's going to be likely for Kamala Harris. You have Tim Walz, similar to J.D. Vance from Ohio, the VP home state advantage electorally. I think she'd win this state by probably 7 to 8 percentage points on election day. Minnesota is getting bluer, especially the suburbs, and I think the women vote can really turn out for Kamala Harris if that's the case, as well as obviously Minneapolis is really trending towards the left. Minnesota ultimately is getting bluer. And then as for New Hampshire, this state's a very, college-educated voter state, has a lot of college-educated voters, and that really specifically goes well for Democrats. So I do think Kamala Harris can do well, especially considering that Tim Walz is on the ticket as her running mate. I do think Tim Walz would really help with college-educated voters. Obviously, has a lot to do with education. With Tim Walz's background as governor of Minnesota, he's really focused on education as well. So I do think she would win New Hampshire by probably close to 6 points on election day, a likely margin. And I know I said forget the polls, but still, the polls on 538 were actually really accurate. Back in 2020 in the state of New Hampshire, they predicted Biden would win the state by around 7 points, and it ended up being realistic, and they have Kamala Harris winning the state by close to 7. So I do think maybe that can be more on the accurate side. So I do think that will be likely for her at the end of the day. And the likely states for Donald Trump, other than Ohio, I do think is going to be Florida and Texas. I do think those would be two likely states for Donald Trump. Let's start off with Florida. Obviously, Miami-Dade County flipped to DeSantis in the 2022 midterms. Miami-Dade County was originally a blue county, and then it flipped to red in 2022. DeSantis won the state by nearly 20 points, so I don't think it's going to be close at all. And I know the polls, this is where the polls become trash, because in 538, Trump is only winning Florida by 4 percentage points. I think that is way off. I think he'd win it by closer to 8 or 9 percentage points, a likely comfortable margin, especially Hispanic voters. Cuban Americans specifically in the state of Florida are really trending towards the right, and I think it's not going to be even close. Forget what the polls are saying. It's not going to be decided within 4 to 5 points for Donald Trump, and if that is the case, then he's going to lose the election. He's going to win Florida by close to 10 points, and I won't be surprised if he does get double digits in this state, as literally both Marco Rubio and DeSantis got literally past 15 points. And then as for Texas, I do think this is a border state, obviously, so that issue is a losing issue for Kamala Harris. She can't address immigration at all. And with that being said, I don't see how Texas can really be close or competitive at all. So with that being said, I think it's going to be likely for Donald Trump, and he'd win the state on election day by probably 8 percentage points if I had to make an estimated margin guess. And now the lean states for both of these candidates, starting off with Kamala Harris, I think is going to be Virginia, is going to be the only lean state for her. The latest polling averages, on average, on RCP, or Real Clear Politics, has her up by 4 percentage points, and that is a little bit of an upgrade from Joe Biden's lead, in which he actually was not leading. Trump was defeating Joe Biden on the RCP average in the state of Virginia, believe it or not, which is probably one of the main reasons he dropped out, because if you're losing Virginia as a Democrat, then you're more than likely going to lose an electoral landslide, or get obliterated. But now she's up by 4, which is, gaining some ground or momentum that Joe Biden originally had lost because he was losing this state. And don't forget that the governor here, who is very popular, he endorsed Donald Trump, Glenn Youngkin, is trying to mandate paper ballot, on election day rules. And I do think that would really benefit Donald Trump in the long run, and I do think it will make the state a lot closer. And with that endorsement of Glenn Youngkin, I do think Virginia would be decided by probably 3 or maybe even 4 percentage points, which is what the polling averages suggest on RCP averages. I do think she would barely win Virginia by probably a lean margin. I think it's going to be one of the more, surprising states for Donald Trump. And the lean states for Donald Trump, in this case, I think is going to be North Carolina and Nevada. I do think those would be 2 lean states for him. Let's start with North Carolina. Republicans are doing tremendous in terms of voter registration. They are getting a lot of new voters on their side. And I know people are saying in the future North Carolina is going to be a blue state. Well, I just don't buy that. I think the state's actually getting redder. If you take a look at registration specifically, yeah, they keep gaining in terms of new voters for the Republicans. And then as for Nevada, I do think in terms of obviously the Hispanic vote, I think that can really, make a major play in Clark County, the Vegas area. I think maybe if Trump improves among Hispanic voters, I think he can, and I think he would win this state by probably 2 percentage points, and he probably will flip Washoe County, as well as run up the numbers, obviously, in the Vegas area. And then as for Arizona, I do think that Donald Trump, as of right now, would barely win this state. Probably by around a percentage point, a tilt margin. It's going to be very close. And I do think that in terms of Carrie Lake on the Senate level, I think she's going to get absolutely obliterated. I do think Ruben Gallego would destroy her. I think he would win the state by probably 3 to 4 percentage points on the Senate level. I do think she actually might hurt Trump. And I don't understand how she won the primary. And honestly, I do think Trump's going to win the state because this is a border state. And I think even if he doesn't flip Maricopa County, for example, if she wins Maricopa by 1 percentage point, that's actually not enough for her to win, because Joe Biden had won Maricopa by 2 points in the 2020 election, and he only won the state by 11,000 votes, a margin of 0.3 percentage points. So even if she were to win Maricopa by, as an example, under percentage point, that's actually not enough for her to win. She would have to have an, performance that was in line with Joe Biden's 2020 margin of victory in this state. And obviously, the immigration is just a losing issue for Kamala Harris, as I stated that before in this video. And the other tilt states for Donald Trump, I think, is going to be Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So let's start off with Georgia. I do think that because Brian Kemp has Donald Trump's support, he is backing him. Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, has endorsed Donald Trump, and he clearly stated that he wants Kamala Harris to be defeated. And he had an amazing victory in the 2022 midterms, defeating Stacey Abrams on the governorship. He won by nearly 7 percentage points. And I do think that would really go to Donald Trump's benefit. And Georgia lawmakers or legislators on the Republican Party are trying to pass, obviously, new election laws that were not, put in 2020, in which all absentee ballots have to be submitted by 8 p.m. and no later, otherwise they won't be accepted. That means the state would be called faster, and that would really go to Donald Trump's benefit, similar to Virginia, in which Glenn Youngkin is trying to mandate paper ballots only, and I think that really can go to Donald Trump's benefit. And the main reason why Biden won this state was because he had, obviously, the momentum. He had a lot of celebrity endorsements, as well as the African-American support really skyrocketed for Joe Biden. I don't think Kamala can do the same. I think she very well can win this state. I won't be shocked. But still, as of September, which is the point of this video, Trump's barely going to win this state by a tilt margin of probably around 1 percentage point. And for Harris, in order to win this state, she would have to probably run up the numbers in Atlanta, the suburbs, and as well as the metropolitan area in Savannah as well. I think that's really important for her. Can she do it? I just don't think so. I really think Biden got lucky. He only won this state by 10,000 votes. I do think this is more than likely going to flip for Donald Trump. Probably one of the more easier flips for him. And then as for Wisconsin, right now on average, Kamala Harris is winning the state by around 3 percentage points on 538. I think the polls are absolutely trash because Wisconsin polls are always overestimating Democrats on the general election. As they did in 2020, Biden was supposed to win the state by 6 points, according to the 538 polling averages back in 2020, and he won it by literally 0.6%. That's a polling error of roughly 6 points. That's the polling error. And I think right now, she's performing worse in Wisconsin, according to the 538 polls, than Hillary Clinton did in 2016 and Joe Biden. So when you apply that polling error, realistically, Trump is actually the favorite to win Wisconsin. And I do think if he's able to flip Door County and only went to Biden by like a percentage point, I think he's probably going to flip the state. It's going to come down to those obviously 20,000 voters. That's the margin that Biden had won the state by. If Trump flips 20,000, obviously he's going to win the state, and I think he can do exactly that. The polls out of Wisconsin are always off, overestimating Democrats, and I think that's going to happen once again. And the main reason why Biden won this state was because literally of Milwaukee. If she doesn't have a amazing performance in Milwaukee, the Democratic stronghold county, then she's not going to win this state. And if Trump's able to have skyrocket turnout in Green Bay, some of these stronghold Republican counties in the state of Wisconsin, I do think he would probably win this state. And then as for Pennsylvania, obviously, I do think Trump would have to flip Erie County, as actually a lot of that vote share in the Republican primary actually went to Nikki Haley. So I think also the fact that Nikki Haley endorsed Donald Trump, I think that can really help him. And then he doesn't have to flip Centre County, but if he can make it closer, it'll obviously help him. Centre County went to Biden by around 4 to 5 percentage points. And then obviously, if he is able to flip Northampton County, it only went to Biden by 0.7% in the state of Pennsylvania. I do think he will do that. And obviously, Butler County is next to Pittsburgh. So I do think if he's able to overperform in Pittsburgh, because he got shot, next to Pittsburgh, Butler County is really close to each other. I do think maybe that can have him have, skyrocket turnout. And then as for Philadelphia, if Kamala Harris does not really run up the numbers in some of these stronghold Democratic counties like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, especially the suburbs, I think the entirety of this election specifically comes down to the suburbs, not the rural areas, not the urban areas, specifically the suburbs. And if Kamala doesn't do well in that aspect, I think she can lose this election. And I do think that she will win Michigan's 15 electoral votes by a tilt margin of around 1 percentage point. I do think you had the large uncommitted vote against Joe Biden, and the Democratic primaries, 100,000 voters voted uncommitted. And that was against Joe Biden, not Kamala Harris. But if Trump is able to put out the correct messaging and, tie the Kamala Harris record to the Biden administration, it would make her look bad, especially with that large uncommitted vote. But considering that Michigan was the bluest Rust Belt state of the 3 in 2020, it voted to the left of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. I do think Kamala Harris probably has a better shot at winning Michigan than she does in Wisconsin, as Wisconsin was the reddest Rust Belt state in 2020 and in 2016, and I believe the Obama era as well. But yes, Michigan is the bluest Rust Belt state, so I do think she probably has the best shot at winning that more than any other state. And as well as Detroit is really trending towards the left as well, and I do think the support of the governor Gretchen Whitmer endorsing Kamala Harris. Gretchen Whitmer is very popular, so I think that endorsement really can help her. So 297 electoral votes for Donald Trump. To Kamala Harris is 241 if the election was held today in September. This is my prediction as of September. So let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below. This is my new updated map. One last final reminder to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press like button, share this video. Don't forget we do have memberships. If you aren't interested, you can find a link to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.